women's menstrual cycle if you're not on hormonal birth control. So let's talk about it. So really, ideally, we're every, 28-ish days, we're having this fluctuation, this cycle of hormones. Now, men cycle on a 24-hour period. And if you have any male in your shared space and life, this is something you can share with them, that essentially what they experience, the change of energy and mood that men experience in a 24-hour period, we experience over 28 days. So their end of day, like come home from work or, whatever they're wrapping up, their end of day feeling of like wanting to relax and being a little tired and whatever, we experience that for about 2 weeks straight in our luteal phase. So we'll talk about that in a bit. And hopefully this develops, a little bit of compassion, because we're not just dealing with this in a short amount of hours. It's really weeks, every single month. And what's really fascinating, and we're going to talk about this in a bit, of why women are having more issues with menstrual cycles and infertility and early menopause symptoms and whatnot. Really, the workday, the modern workday, was created and revolves around a man's 24-hour hormonal cycle. If we were to develop a workday around a woman's cycle, we would have 2 weeks off. We would have 2 weeks off every month, just straight, no work. So let's talk about what is actually happening here. Of course, there are so many more hormones being produced, but I just want to talk about the main sex hormones for women that fluctuate throughout your menstrual cycle. So really, day one of your period is the first day of your cycle, right? So first day of your period, you're in your follicular phase. And this is like there's all different kinds of ways to kind of categorize and label this process, but I'm going to keep it really, really simple here so you get a good sense of how this works. The first day of your period, you're starting to ramp up again with estrogen. That's why usually by day 3, for most women, with a chill, uneventful period, which your period should be pretty chill and uneventful, your estrogen starts to rise again. Your estrogen, I like to think of her as your 20 or 30-year-old high energy, hot party girl self. She's got all the energy. She's feeling good, looking good, and then on the flip side is progesterone. This is really your granny girl hormone. I like to think of progesterone as like, we want to stay inside and do a puzzle and maybe some knitting and just chill out, take a bubble bath. This is that energy of progesterone, and they are so necessary in these really like balancing each other out. And they both have benefits physiologically in the female body, and why it's so important not to turn them off. We ideally do not want to shut them down or turn them off from hormonal birth control. Especially progesterone is related to essential bone health with age and preventing like osteoporosis and sarcopenia, which is muscle loss as age increases. So from the first day of your period, your estrogen starts to rise, you get your mojo back a little bit, and then you come to ovulation, and estrogen is really starting to peak here. This is like peak fertility, hot girl summer, like you're feeling your best. This is really a time in your follicular phase to ovulation. If you really want to work with your hormones, this is a time to like where your physiology is most like a man's. So this might be when you're just crushing it at work, you have tons of energy, you're like, yes, like take on all those projects. This is a great time to do a presentation. It's a great time to be on camera. I'm on day 7 of my period, so I'm like right here. I sure as hell was not going to do this presentation a week ago in my luteal phase, and I'll talk about why. So as you reach ovulation, this is really when some women experience this drastic shift right at ovulation or a day later. And look at why. Look at that strong shift in hormones. Your estrogen drops pretty darn fast. Then ideally, we start to see this pick up of progesterone. And this increase in progesterone really softens the luteal phase. The luteal phase, again, it's like a potential like 10 to 16 days before your period. 10 to 16 days, I'm telling you, that's half the month. And if we are pushing through the luteal phase, like trying to force ourselves to operate like we are in our follicular phase, this is one of the biggest issues of why women are really struggling. So we're going to talk about some strategies about how to maximize and utilize your hormones for your superpower instead of letting them control you. So just real briefly, kind of, again, just zooming out and looking at estrogen versus progesterone. Estrogen is great for a like steady, happy mood. You increase, your energy is increased, your libido's up. Like it makes sense, right? Especially as you peak at ovulation, that's like nature's way of trying to really, recommend that you procreate. It's like the optimal environment for procreating. It's the easiest time to get pregnant. It's when you were most fertile. It's like such a short window. It's like maximum 3 days just about that you could get pregnant. Your serotonin's up, your dopamine's up, you're most insulin sensitive. We'll talk about this on the next slide, what that means. When progesterone kicks in, and it should kick in, but here's the thing. Let me go back to the slide real quick. Most women, if you are not practicing this restoration and the right activities in your luteal phase, this progesterone will not increase and you are going to experience just a low hormone state overall. So then your estrogen's really low, but you don't have that granny girl coming in to like soften the blow, right? So this is ideal. We want progesterone to come up in the second half of your cycle. So here's the balancing impact of progesterone. It boosts your thyroid. You should sleep better. It reduces inflammation. When you have enough progesterone, you should have like a pretty chill period overall. Your metabolism actually increases during your luteal phase if your progesterone is up, which is a good thing. Your body temperature is up. You're burning more calories, like 100 to 300 extra calories per day. It's so important for your bone growth and bone health as you age. You really want to bank on producing that progesterone as much as you can. Synthetic progestin is like the opposite of progesterone. There is no progestin, like from hormonal birth control, has again that androgen effect. It does not do what these things do, this natural side effects of natural progesterone that you create yourself in your body. Insulin sensitivity decreases at this time. And on the next slide, we'll talk about strategies for what that means. Bloating and constipation, totally normal. If you've ever felt like the day of your period or 2 days into it, you're like, your bowel movements get regular again, normal. So progesterone, think of it as pro-gestation. It is the hormone of pregnancy. So even though, through this process, let's say you're not, the sperm and egg don't conceive and you're just having a regular period, you're still getting the high progesterone release in the body, which if any of you watching have ever been pregnant, that pregnancy glow, you've got great hair, skin, nails, like think about it, it's the progestation hormone where you're growing life. So it's giving all this like important growth factor stimulus and responses in the body. So really what we find in terms of, let's say we're talking about a normal menstruation cycle without hormonal birth control involved,